some of these systems fail. But anyway, so who is here for the first time at a service design drinks event? Wow. A lot of people in Milan as well?
Only two.
So welcome everyone who's here for the first time, and also welcome everybody else who is a regular and part of the community. So a little bit about, what is SDD for everybody who hasn't been here before. All right, I guess that's the first tech issue we've identified. So, yeah, I guess. So Service Design Drinks is basically a local, independent, self-organized node. There's a lot of service design drinks all over the globe. We're one of the chapters, which is Berlin. Then we have the other chapter online, as you know, Milan. This community started as, one for service designers, but well, what is service design? What is experience design? What is strategic design? It's basically everything design, right? As all of us. So basically, this is a space where we can all meet, connect, have conversations, network, and we do these events every month. So there's one event every month, both in Milan and Berlin. So the formats are pretty similar across these two chapters as well. So just to sum up, right? Like we're all about, talking about topics that are relevant for the community right now, sharing experiences, meeting people, having drinks together. So I hope after the talks also you spend some time with the community and interacting with each other. As I mentioned, right, Service Design Drinks is all over the globe. We're just the two chapters that connected today, but there's a lot of chapters in Asia, in America, in Europe as well. So if you go to another city, you can always connect with the service design community there already existing and active. Who's behind SDD Berlin? So, well, I'm Akanksha. I'm a strategic designer from BCGX. We have Peli, also strategic designer from BCGX. We have Chris.
This designer too.
And we have Laura at the back, who's an innovation consultant at Tom Spike. It's changed. But and Jen, who's not here today at the event, but all five of us have been running these events for almost 2 years now. And all of this is voluntary, right? Like we do it in our free time just to keep the community up and running. Until now, as SDD Berlin, like we usually try and organize 10 plus events a year. So it's like one per month. We have some followers, I guess, and all of our events, right? Like we try either the small events where, you have 40, 50 people like this one, or the giant events with 150 people and so on. So we kind of, depending on the location we're collaborating with, we come up with formats that, are relevant for the different types of audiences. And that's all about Berlin. Milan has done enough listening. So over to Milan.
Thank you. So this is Milano service design team. And there's more because, for instance, there's Andrés taking pictures tonight, which is not in the slide, but thank you. So we have even more people, but like we have Andrea, me, myself, Silvia, Lucia, Manfred, who, by the way, is not a service designer. So we are super inclusive and open to new skills in the team. Claire and Natalie. And basically we run less events than Berlin, but we experiment different formats. If we go in the next slide, you can see that this is our 52nd event. We do only 10 events per, we are here since, I don't know, 10 years. And we ran 9 events last year. This year would be maybe 8, because I think we talk a lot. And yeah, we also like do some discounts and partnership with bigger events, which are not free like ours. And yeah, that's it. And we have 0 control. We have 0 money stream. So that's it. Yeah, okay. So let's leave the stage maybe to Giacomo. So to Elisa.
Hello, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here, both in Milan and Berlin, so to be the host of this really special edition. For those in Milan, thanks for fighting the rain and being here despite the different weather alerts of those days. So we really appreciate that. It was, I mean, we weren't taking that for granted, so we are happy to be here. So welcome to Jakarta and to our offices. For those of you who are wondering where the Jakarta names comes from, I don't know if some of you knows, otherwise I'm gonna explain. Okay, I guess no one was knowing why. So Jakarta, and we can move to the next slide because you have a hint. Actually, Jakarta is the name of the crocodile of the Jungle Book. Why that? Why that? Because our founder was so in love with this book, and Jakarta was his nickname, that he decided to call the company he established like that. So if you see a lot of animals around and the crocodile outside here in Milan, right now you know why. But being more serious, if we go to the next slide, yeah, I mean, Jakarta is an international consulting firm. We focus on data, AI, and experiences, and of course, our aim is to create a lasting impact globally. If we go to the next slide, you can see that we are actually spread, especially around Europe, but also around the world. And right now we are even, maybe if you don't know the name and like the reason behind it, we are pretty big company. We have more than 3,000 people around the world. So we have fantastic colleagues. We have more than 1,000 clients and active projects in over 40 countries. So that's pretty huge. But the one I'm most proud of is that our average age is 36. So that's, I'm really proud about that. And also that like the gender balance is quite strong. So we are happy to host this event. Yeah, we can move to the next slide. And I think, okay, we can move on. So today the idea was, since we are speaking about service design, is to bring our perspective, comparing the experiences of different design teams. So we would like to share the Italian experience on service design, comparing with the German one. And because at Jakarta, we have integrated design teams, but it's also true, there are local nuances we would like to point out. So that's a bit what we wanted to do. So right now I switch my hat and I will be the one telling you about the Italian design team. So we actually, I now represent, if we move to the next slide, I now represent the Italian Innovation Design Studio of Jakarta. And yeah, if you move on, I would say that we apply service design to a really broad spectrum of project archetypes. So it's really broad and it goes from envisioning new scenarios and new propositions up to organizational design. So we would like to guide you a little bit through the different project archetypes where service design competencies are applied. So the first one is for sure envisioning new scenario. So that's the area in which we really build from scratch new proposition, new ideas for products, services, business models. And we do that leveraging user research, strategic foresight, so all the tools of service design. We have, if you go to the next slide, we have a few examples of that. For instance, we have been designing a new business model for boosting fundraising for young children with UNICEF, or we have been envisioning new concept for the smart cities. So there were available technological assets and we needed to find the reason for them. So that's an example about how we move in the strategic part about envisioning new scenarios and new direction. If we move to the next slide, the second areas where we apply service design competencies is, of course, the crafting, designing, and implementing new experiences. And we do that with a really omni-channel perspective, in the sense that if we move to the next slide, we really cover different channels from digital design through physical spaces, through different types of omni-channel customer journeys. So that's really, again, really broad. And so the systemic mindset enables us to do that. Sometimes we partner a specific executor, but we have this overall orchestration about customer experience. The last part, so if we move to the next slide, the last part, and maybe the less common one, it's also that we apply service design to organizational and people impact. So we really work also within organization to enable innovation from within. So a lot of our service designers are actually working on designing new internal processes, implementing new ways of working, or enabling change management processes, and so on, to make sure innovation is sustained from within organizations. So if we move to the next slide, we have a few examples. I would mention the Barilla ones. For instance, we've been supporting Barilla in redesigning the learning and development experience of their employees, as well as the new onboarding path for the newcomers, for new employees. And that's an example. So to wrap it up, if we move to the next slide, which is also the last one, before passing the stage to Germany, we would say that in Italy, and for our Italian team, service design is really broad, and it creates impact both within organization, but also for the market and customer. So that's our perspective and what we do and how much service design is spread with different organizations. So thank you. Let's see instead, which is the German experience on that.
Yeah, perfect. We have Tyra from Jakarta, Hamburg, representing.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, so I work for Jakarta, Germany, and I'm actually in the Hamburg office, which is a really big office, actually. I'm not sure how many more employees, but we have like a really big location in Hamburg. And yeah, I have the pleasure of running or leading a small team of what we call experience strategists. And in that team, we do service design, design thinking, product strategy, and then we shapeshift to conquer whichever problem we have. And I would just like to, before I can kind of give you the local nuances for us, I think I would like to briefly talk about what we actually do at Jakarta, Germany. And for that, I brought 2 examples for clients that we have. Yeah, I can talk about that. So the first one is TUI Cruises, Mein Schiff. And this is a client that we've been working for a really long time. And it's interesting because for them, we like do the actual hardware on the ships. And then we also do the advertising. So it's like a full circle thing for TUI Cruises. And in that, we have really many different areas in which we can be involved. And the way that it works is that the client team and our team work together to define new features, to build the features. Designers are on both sides, product managers, the whole lot. The next client, which is really interesting, is ZDF Mediathek, which maybe for the Italians, if you don't know what it is, it's a public broadcasting service. And I think like half the German population use it on a regular basis. So it's like a really, part of the German culture almost. And with ZDF, we've been working since 2013. So it's like a really long time. And we're actually a general contractor for them. So we also orchestrate other agencies and service providers. And we just, I don't know if you are aware, but we've just relaunched the ZDF Mediathek actually, and we built the whole thing together with ZDF. So that was really exciting. And then the last one, which is a great client, is Hochbahn. And Hochbahn is the public transport provider in Hamburg. And for them, we do the app. And the app is like the touch point, which obviously the public uses a lot when they're using public transport. And with this as well, we have a really integrated team of the client and our teams. And we work together to create this product and iteratively develop it. So what do service designers do? My team is not part of the studios that work with the clients. We come in as like a task force if something needs service design or design thinking or strategic involvement. And with that, we really try to promote a customer-centric and kind of holistic approach to products. And I don't want to say that other people don't try and do that as well, but sometimes you need an external task force to help with that. And that's with the end goal to really increase our clients' UX maturity and ultimately enable the holistic approach to the service based on real client needs. And then often we do the research and everything that's needed for that. And then also, I think service design can be a good way to like bring in design thinking into different areas because it's such a good project space to use design thinking methodology, which I think in other cases, can be difficult to include because people tend to jump straight to the solution and aren't quite so interested in the problem oftentimes. And now I have a really boring looking slide, which is this one. And I really like it because, first of all, I didn't come up with the content. It's a paper which I found, which explains service design hand over to UX design. And this is oftentimes the work that we do, and it really represents how we oftentimes work as service designers, is that we're at the beginning of service creation phases, and we kind of define the user needs. We create this empathy, we create the vision. Often we create some kind of journey map, and then we work together with product management, and then the handover to agile development can take place. And I think this is a really kind of good visualization of and representative way of showing how service design in our German organization is used. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, thank you for hosting us both in Berlin and in Milan. Perfect. So the next thing we have on the agenda is, of course, our speakers. I forgot to mention one thing because I was so nervous about the tech setup. It's for a few hours now. That this collaboration is very special for us because a lot of us have lived in Milan and have been one of the people attending those events, organizing those events, speaking at those events. So it's very special for us to be actually on this other side and partner with SDD Milan. So shout out to SDD Milan for having all of us there some years back. And the second, I want to do another shout out, which is what we realized in one of the speaker check-ins, which is shout out to PSSD, which is the master's course that the speakers did, the organizers in Berlin did, the organizers in Milan did. So we all actually did the same course back in Milan and ended up doing similar stuff. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the community from Milan comes from Polymy, and a lot of us here have also done the same thing. So it's actually a very it's too close to home kind of collaboration for us. So then after this emotional emotional bid to Milan. We're going to go with the first speaker now. So, Nitya.
Hi, everyone. Hello, Milano. I hope you can hear me well. I think so. I will go ahead. And fun fact, I was actually part of the very first service design drinks that happened in Milan. And it was just, I think, 10 people in a little room around the table. The format wasn't even set yet, but we were just a couple of people who were doing that. So it's really good to be back here in Berlin and then actually talk a little bit about my journey. So I am Nitya. I'm service designer. Oh, sorry, I go back. Yep. Okay. Service designer. I'm currently working at SAP Pioneer, which is we build fintech products, so banking, insurance, finance products. And yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit about the shape-shifting practice of service design. It's really cool that you also mentioned shape-shifting. So I think we're all on the same page here. And so to start with a little story of how I was actually hired for the wrong job. I did my bachelor's in industrial design, and the course was actually called product design. And that was about the time when product design started being referred to for like digital design. And then, so I did industrial design. Really, you can see some lighting prototypes or spatial design work that I was doing. I went through the whole interview process. And then when I appeared on the job, it was product design on the screen, for which I had no experience, nothing. And I was like, how could you hire me? Like, you know what I did. I don't know what I did. And they were like, no, it's fine. You'll be fine. Like, it's all the same design. Yeah. So that's how my journey started. And then it also came back. I thought I would, the quickest way to tell you a little bit of all the things that I did would be through the very famous How Might We questions that we all know. And in Polyme PSSD, this was one of the kind of projects we worked on. It was really in a university. So we had real world, we had experimental. So we were working on sports communication and then really in something to have fun with. It has devices, digital devices, physical, haptic devices and everything. Then I'm going very fast here because we have a 10 minutes, but I moved back to India where I was working before, and things got really quite real. And I was working for things like how the city's water systems are tracked and how can you actually make that data useful for the municipality and how to make it actionable. Also things like how the retail experience of customers, how to help people stop staying in queues for a long time and actually experience an experience store that Decathlon built. And then more closer to home, now that I'm working in the fintech or banking space, we also talk about things like how can we help people know more about, how they save or spend money and be more mindful about it. And something in the B2B sector where we are talking about maybe people in a very complex insurance product building of how they actually, work on coverages or things that we see pricing, etc., on enterprise systems. So it's really quite a big or different range of things. And one of the things that stick out to me when we talk about service design is this quote that says, service design is the optimistic act of moving from how things are to how things could be. And in this whole process of moving towards how things could be, of course, we all come across some challenges or obstacles. And so that is something I would like to talk about next, of what I think or what I've faced even now, maybe as a service designer, whatever the title may be. I know there are a lot of us here who are maybe not called service design, but are doing it in some form or the other. I think it's really easier to do service design than to explain what it is and why it matters. It's maybe all of us, due to the laughs, I can see that we've been there. So it's easier to maybe make a journey map, do the research, find the insights than explain to someone why I should be on that team right from the beginning to, follow through. Usually how I deal with it or how I navigate this is to try to take out the design thinking or the service design out of it. So instead of saying very simplistically something like, okay, we have to build a service blueprint and find those opportunity areas and the pain points, something like, hey, look, don't you think if we know exactly the point where there's a block, bottleneck, or there's a lot of time taken for a certain process, don't you think then it would be faster for us to solve that? And then usually it's easier to get all the stakeholders or people who may not know the value to actually come on. Next one, it's also easier to identify challenges than to implement the solutions. Again, we can do the research, we can find the pain points and the opportunities, even come up with really good concepts, but then when it's going into implementation, it's often that it's out of our hands. So there could be so many things, maybe organizational priorities change or funding changes, or I don't know, just requirements change. And then for this kind of thing, I often think also like how we mentioned on the Jakala slides that working together with another process, so whether it's agile or something else that is really product centric or implementation centric, and kind of merging the practices really helps. So not being very specific on what the concept we came up with, and it should be just this way, but kind of bridging the gap there. And then third one is that it's easier to fix the things that we can see than the invisible, and it's also more difficult to measure the invisible. Here. So a lot of us, I think we are working on a lot of maybe insightful things of how to improve a service across many touch points. And it's a common challenge that we are not really able to measure how much or how to show it in business terms that happens. And to go a little bit more into how I deal with this or how I think about it, I will move on to some of the skills that I think are important for designers to have, no matter which kind of work we are doing. And for this, I like to think of it in this thing. I hope you can see or read a little, maybe it's the font is too small, but what kind of value can we create? The type of value that a service designer can do. It could be about efficiency, improving an experience, or building capability. And then what kind of organization is it? Is it a core product, so really close to what the company is building, or something more in the periphery, like the engagements they are doing? And most of what I think how skills and how the shape shifting happens is depending on where you are at this. These are all not projects that I have done, but projects that service designers could be doing, some of it which I have touched upon. Like employee experience. And the kind of skill that you apply for each of this kind of differs. Maybe it's the same method, but it's different how you would go with it. So one of the skills I think is to adapt to the scale, to that scale of where you are in an organization, what is the context. And even if it is the same method, you change the kind of focus, you change the level of detail, or you change the logic depending on what you're dealing with. Next one, again, goes back to the challenge that I mentioned about implementation. I think it's very important to have the empathy or operational empathy, patience, and perseverance. So things can often not go according to plan. And I think it's always good to be good to be open to improvise and then know how things are working before trying to follow a process exactly how it must go. And the last one, shape-shifting, already spoke about it. But what I mean in this case is that as service designers, I think all of us wear many hats. It could be about communication. It could be about actually the craft of research, insights, analysis. It could be many different things, also graphic communication, etc. So it's important to know when to map something, when to maybe model something, and also when not to use any of the things that come naturally to us. So everything need not be a workshop. Maybe sometimes it's already enough that you are talking to the right stakeholders. And that kind of shape shifting is what I'm talking about, that depending on what that context need, we could use any of the things in our civil belt to kind of go forward. And as a final thought, I would like to leave you with this to say that I think it's us who shape the process and the impact, and sometimes we also have to shape our own role according to how, for the project. Thank you so much. I hope to talk with you later.
Yeah. So we will take the questions all together after the four speakers have gone, but you can scan the QR code already, because then if you have any questions and somebody's talking, you can already post them. When you post the questions, just address them to a specific speaker. If I'm in the, like, one side, you can scan the QR code. But just like if you need to address it to Nitya, just say Nitya and then type the question. Same goes for Milan. This is obviously Nitya's QR code, but Milan also has these printouts for the Q&A QR code. And now I guess over to Andrés in Milan. We can also cheer, guys. They can hear them.
You can switch the slide. Is it okay for you, Andres?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can keep the screen, because we have a technical problem here. I'm gonna fix.
Okay,
Yeah.
then just say next. I have the.
Okay.
Perfect.
Andres is ready for everything. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you having me. So I'm really excited to share a little bit of my experience as a service designer. Can we go to the next slide? So we are gonna talk about design influencer. Can we go to the next one? But it's not that kind of influencer. It's other kind. Next, please. Let's see. So I'm gonna give you. Can we go to the next one, please? Well, you know the logistics is a bit complex right now. Anyway, let's start from my background. So I'm a Colombian who lives in Milan since 2014. My background is in communication design, in marketing, and in product services and design. We know we are for product services. I don't need to say from which school. Well, I have been designer since 2010, and in 2016 I started in the service strategy design area. I currently work as a lead service designer in a huge company here in Italy that works in different industries. Okay, we have a change.
Yeah.
And something about me, I like technology, I like tennis and also finance, but let's say that tennis is more enjoyable. But I would like to give you maybe a little bit more details about my experience, because I came from the world of a consultancy, and then I moved to the in-house world. Like the last 3 years, I have been in the in-house world, and I noticed some differences. You know, some things that made me also think about the job that I was doing as a designer. In consultancy, so I have just some comparison. So you need to convince your client, or the clients in general, that your approach is the approach. You know, you need to choose me. I know how to do the things. I need to convince the client. Normally, there is a brief. No, maybe not the brief that we want, but there is a brief. I see that some of you work in consultancy. But let's say that a client call a consultancy would have something to do. It is not like, I'm going to spend this budget just because. You start in one point of a project, maybe not in the beginning, maybe in the middle, and you finish when the budget is, or when you deliver something, or when there is no more budget. You ask for your client, the things that you need, contacts, meetings, documents, etc. If they don't provide it to you, it's not your fault. You cannot invent things. You are an expert, so if the clients pay for the expertise, and in general, the focus is in the variety, because you jump to the next project, and also about efficiency. So you need to do it in less time, less budget, more efficient. When I moved to the in-house, I noticed some different things. So you need to help to define the brief. You need to convince someone else that the brief makes sense. You need, maybe if you cannot do it internally, you need to ask for help and also convince someone else that you need help and there is budget to do it. You follow the project, but also your work starts before the project and continue after the project, because you need to take the deliverable and make it real. So your work is a little bit longer, let's say, in the cycle. You start to understand that everything is slower. I mean, in-house, things move slower. In comparison with consultancy, everything is moving very, very, very fast. But in consultancy, you need to, stay calm, because the important thing in-house is the relationships. It's the, how you know the right people to get your projects moving on. Maybe have some issues with the presentation. Okay, I'm gonna. So yes, we have.
The product is there.
Yes. Let's say the product is there. So I bring you 3 challenges here in different levels, at a personal level, at an organizational level, and a relational level. These challenges are for design, but I like to say that is the design of the intangible. The strategies, the customer experience, the services. We all know that we don't have like a fixed definition. No, but the first one, it's being humble. So this humble is, there was other things there. Yeah. We have some issues, but it's being humble as a designer, as a professional. When you arrive to a context as in-house, you start to say, I can do this thing. And the answer is, okay, yes, that team is doing good that thing. Maybe go to talk with them. I can do maybe this other thing. Okay, yes, let's go. You can go and talk with this other. So, and it happened again and again. And you start to ask yourself, okay, so if someone else is doing the job that I'm supposed to do, what I need to do? Because we as designers that entered in the last, let's say, 25 years, the design entered to areas where the design wasn't before. So it's like we are kind of new, and we sometimes entered to context thinking that our approach is the right one, that we know how to do things, but also we feel that we are not understood, that other people doesn't understand that. Now I'm going to connect with the second challenge, that it's you are doing something that it's already taken. So here I have, it's other level. It's the organization, how the organization works, which are the different areas and departments and responsibilities. I have a question for us. I don't have answers, sorry. I just have questions for us. That it's the thing that we are doing, gives so much value that it's worth for an organization to change. Change is painful, it's expensive, it's slow. So if we are not giving something that is really, really, really different, does it work for our organization to change all? So again, it's just it's a question. The third challenge, it's about the reputation that we are building, a reputation because we are kind of new. Once we identify exactly what we can bring to the organization, then it is not positioned yet. So if a designer says something, that does not have the same weight as other, areas professionals maybe are saying exactly the same. Maybe marketing, maybe product, maybe technology. I mean, our voices are not, the same. So we are building this kind of trust and reputation. If you wanna go deep in this kind of, thing, I have a little article. You can find it in my LinkedIn profile. So far, so sad. Let's say, okay, so what? So what can we do? How can we face these challenges? I bring you some skills that I think are useful, some hard skills and some soft skills. So the end-to-end vision is something that we have, and that it's really, very, has a lot of value for an organization. It is not that we are the only ones that can connect the points. Maybe, for example, the top management generally, are people that are connecting the dots, but they are managers. So they don't maybe have the details. So the designer of the intangible can make all of these connections. And I think this is one of the important things that we have and we should have in our skill set. Then when we have something that we have designed, we need to design this strategy. What I mean with a strategy, a series of steps to achieve something, some change, something that we would like to have. So we cannot design just the thing by itself. We need to think how to arrive on what I need to do. Coming from idea, maybe designing the idea to make it real. Take the small steps to achieve a change in general. This is also a little bit of a soft skill. Because it applies for the project, but also for maybe your career, actually. Talking about the soft skills, we have patience and resilience, especially important for in-house. Everything is slow, so you are gonna have to do a lot of extra steps. You are gonna have a lot of negative answers all the time. And when you have a maybe, you need to, stop and say, okay, it's a maybe. It's already a win. And come back, improving stronger to try to make the change and the impact. The last one, it's we need to always tell others what we do, what is our methodology, what's our mindset. If you don't like it, you have a problem, because we are not in the position now when maybe people know what to expect from us. So it's part of our job to, tell others what we do to position. And I would like to finish with the translation, because we speak the design language, we speak maybe the user's language, but we don't speak the business language. So the business does not understand what we are saying. And what is easy? To try to position a new terminology, try to make them to understand us, or maybe translate, and try to use also their language. So this is really, really, really important for us. So why design influencer? Because we need to influence. We maybe don't know how to influence. Maybe we didn't learn at school how to influence. But if we don't influence, we cannot have an impact. The time that you spend working in the thing that your actual work, it's very little in comparison with the time that you spend trying to convince someone else that makes sense the work that you are doing. So if we are spending so much time convincing someone else, I start to question which is my job. It's convincing, but it's going to be. So the more influence that we have in an organization, the easier gonna be to make things happen. So thank you very much. I just more or less remembered.
Okay. So have you noticed there are some QR codes around? So you can use these QR codes, scanning them to ask some questions to our speakers. Please be careful to mention which speaker do you address your question to, okay? Okay, I leave the stage to Berlin.
Perfect. Thanks, Andres. We have our third speaker of the evening, Angela. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Oops, that's the wrong. There we go. Okay, so my name is Angela, and I'm excited to share a bit about my own experience and also the skills and the challenges that I've learned as a designer. So I'm a strategic-ish designer with a background in industrial design, service design, and product design. So I've been touching many different design disciplines. And along with that, I've been working in many different types of organizations. So I seem to not be able to stick to one thing for very long, and I'm always curious to explore and expand. So I started out my career studying industrial design, and then I worked in a big corporation. And then I went to everyone's favorite university, Politecnico di Milano, to study product service system design. And then I ended up in the agency world for a while. So I worked at Spiekerman, and then I worked at BCGX as a strategic designer. And now I'm at a very small startup here in Berlin called Emma. So I've seen a lot of different types of companies. And I'm going to take you on a short journey through my career and the types of challenges and skills that I learned in each of those types of organizations. Who here works in a corporate? Anybody work in a big corporate? Okay, not too many. Milan? No. Who's working in consulting? Okay, also a few. And startup? Who's startup world? Okay, good. So where do the rest of you work? Scale-ups, education, academia? Education. Okay, nice. So we have the whole range here, and I guess this could be an ongoing discussion as well. But so my experience in corporate, so I finished my industrial design degree, and I was so excited to apply all of my learnings, all of my shiny new design skills, and create great things. And I showed up at Staples. I don't know if you guys know, it's a big box store, especially in the US. It's quite a large company. They're not known for design at all, but I was brought into an own brand products team, and we had a handful of brands that I was working on. And we were making all kinds of stuff like chairs, printers, staplers, facility supplies, you name it. It was a whole array of random things. And I was in there and I was like, yeah, we're going to bring the culture of design to this company. It's going to be so great. And I realized I basically had no idea how a business works. And we had so many different silos, right? So imagine a young designer straight out of school, a lot of passion. And I'm like, what does the marketing team do? What does the product development team do? Who's going to manufacture this? Who's going to sell it? So I started to realize at that point that design is not like a one-man show, and that I needed to be able to work across all these disciplines and translate across all these different silos in order to have impact in this organization. And what I started to do was experiment with facilitation and co-creation, because this kind of pulled out of my design toolbox. So I started to hold these events where I would bring together all of the folks from the different silos who needed to communicate on the topic, and we would work through things together. And this was really great because obviously, as you know, with this type of stakeholder management, it's so much easier to pull things through to implementation when you have everybody on board and people understand the rationale behind the decisions that you're making. So this was great, and it really opened my eyes, because at that point I realized, okay, I know barely anything about business, but I know that I need to understand business in order to be a successful designer. So this is what led me to actually go back and do my master's, and this is when I studied PSSD. and ultimately led me to the next chapter of my career, which was consulting. So I get to consulting world and I realized that my business skills, my stakeholder management skills, they're starting to be really valuable. And here I'm doing so much user research. So for one project, we might be talking to 30, 40 people who are experts, users, stakeholders in the organization, and so on. And I got really good at listening to them and uncovering their user needs. And something that kind of shifted for me here was that I went from just validating my own ideas to actually being able to listen and build empathy for all of these folks that I was working with on a regular basis. And this really opened up this skill for me to listen with intent, which was fantastic. But the thing is in consulting is that once you, well, I don't know, those of you who are in consulting, you tell me, but a lot of my experience was that we never actually implemented many of the things that I designed. So I would go through all of this effort, I would build all of this empathy with these people, and I was so passionate about bringing these products and services to reality for them. And then often I would have to hand over the project and just hope that somebody else could bring it forward with the care and the intention that I had been putting into it. And of course, often this just didn't happen. So it led me to the next step in my career where I was like, okay, I need to get closer to the users and to where the product is connecting with the users. So I need to move out of consulting and I need to move into a product company. And probably I really need to learn about technology because at this point, I basically had zero idea how anything worked. So I started to have the business skill, I started to have the user and the design skills, but now I was like, okay, now we have to make shit real. So how am I going to do that? And that is when I ended up in the startup world. So this is where I am now. The startup that I'm working at is called AMA. We're a small team here in Berlin. We're about 10 people, and I'm leading the design and user experience. We're mostly engineers, so I really get this like in the engine room experience every single day, seeing how things work and how things are being built. And it's a really interesting and rewarding experience because you get to bring all of those different skills together every single day. But of course, as life goes on, there's always a new challenge to be had. And the thing that you realize when you're in this position where you're kind of responsible for making the choices about what gets built, what are the products or the features, what are the functionalities of the product, which users are we going to focus on when, is that you have a lot of responsibility to make good choices. Like, how do you prioritize one thing or another in this endless chaos of startup world, which is basically there's a million things to do all the time. So I had to overcome my designer pride a little bit in this role. And instead of just sitting and kind of like making the perfect design, I really had to become more forthcoming with my prototyping and testing. So basically, the faster that you can fail, the quicker that you can find the right answer, because there's really no single right answer. There's no boss or manager or user who's going to tell you what to build. I have to figure that out. And there's so many right-ish answers. It's like living in one big experiment all the time. How do you know what's actually going to work and what's right? So what we're doing is we're just failing and we're learning as quickly as possible. I don't know if any of you have tried Lovable as a prototyping tool. It's basically like AI prototyping. And we use this all the time to just like make features feel as real as possible so that we can test them in like 1 or 2 days. And sometimes even just implementing things where you feel like a little bit uncomfortable and you're like, maybe that's not quite ready yet, but like, let's just put it out there and we'll make it better as we go. So that's really the startup mentality. It's been a really exciting journey. I'm sure there's many more things for me to learn in my career. But one of the kind of overall takeaways is that the most important skills for a designer might not actually be design skills at all. And actually a successful designer is one who can make design a success within the organization that they're in. And the way that we do that is by understanding our business, understanding our stakeholders, our users, and our engineers as well, our engineering friends, right? So thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. Over to Milan for the fourth speaker.
Yes. I invite on stage, last but not least, Riccardo. I think in another life, I was doing research. So I'm really proud to have you here, and thank you for all your work you're doing.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you all. I mean, it's going to be hard after 3 amazing speakers, so I'm going to be closing up with a more academic point of view, and this is where I'm residing at the moment. So I hope it doesn't sound too much like a lecture. That's maybe. But let's see. So my talk will be focusing on a research that I've been working on for the past 1.5 years, which is called UnSee. And UnSee stands for Uncertainty in Services. So we really try to investigate how uncertainty as an element for the research goes inside our creation of services and design of services. So a little bit about me, just to give you a perspective. I'm Riccardo, my pronouns are him, and I'm also part of the PSSD gang. Currently, I'm a design researcher and lecturer at Politecnico di Milano. Been working there, and I have a few experiences working in the service design sector and in the humanitarian design sector as well, as part of my thesis. But first of all, since I'm going to be speaking a lot about uncertainty, I wanted first to shout out some of the very compelling certainty that we're living at the moment. And this is what we're living. I mean, we're living in a time in which we see the certain part of a system that is based on exploitation and oppression. And it's something that we need to be reminded as an imperative to counteract, not just in our daily life, but also in our work. And that's a matter of survival. So let's remember that everything we are doing as we're dealing with systemic issues that are intertwined and not necessarily seen as singular. The climate breakdown, what is happening in Gaza, the genocide that is happening in Gaza, is something that we need to be reminded, and we need to be constantly work against that and voice out that concern, also in our work. But that said, let's say that if that's a huge certainty within our life, we're finding ourselves into very uncertain times. And let's say that we're in this context in which everything is kind of a mess. There's an entanglement of different systems that are difficult to understand and are difficult to frame whenever we try to design our way out. And in academia, we tend to call that polycrisis, which is more or less the entanglements of these crises that are all connected. So one single response is not enough. We find it difficult to answer or to find solutions to these kind of things. And let's say that in this way, the transitions in systems are very interesting. It's a very interesting perspective, because when we start seeing at the world and working within this huge complexity from a transition perspective, we leave a little bit a solutionist mindset, and we try to see how our actions are actually contributing to shifting systems towards different forms. And let's see that our research sits more or less in this sort of what we call windows of transformative futures, in which things get pretty messy. So we see a transition from dominant system, business as usual system, towards systems that are different, systems that are new, and that are multiple. And things in that windows of future get quite messy. Service design, though, can intervene and have a possibility to plant seeds at different stages. So we can have services that tries to focus on breaking down and phase out this more dominant system, and understanding also what things can be kept, because not necessarily all the part of the dominant system is negative per se. But we can also think about services that experiment, that build networks, and that foster new experimental way of experimenting, of doing service design outside the dominant system, or a business as usual in that way. So in that sense, we started to frame our research and see Of course, with a core on service design, but we really saw how, in a transition perspective, we distinguish two main elements. One, of course, that is, I've been talking about a lot of systems, so systems design. But another fundamental element whenever we talk about transition is the element of time. And that we started to understand how service design kind of connected both within a wider holistic lens from systemic design, but also a lens that is connected to futures. So how do we study futures? How do we investigate futures? How design futures actually can be fostered within service design? So the exploration of that. And let's say that from this started our research. And we started to understand that through the service design practice lens. So UnSee, in this way, investigated how service design practices are evolving by understanding at the operational level, the systemic and the future-oriented perspective towards the process of transition. So quite complex, but let's see, how did we do that? I'm not gonna present to you all the results, but a little bit of the process that we did. We tried to involve over the course of the year, have different practitioners, different designers, having interviews and different ways of connecting with them. And to give you a little bit of breakdown, mostly of the designers were from the global north. So we have that bias in the way that we are seeing this research, but we tried to really investigate practices that were not necessarily staying at the mainstream level. So we tried to also investigate into those kind of service designs that were very small and solo practitioners as well. And understanding in that way also through different industries, how service design was practiced from these two perspectives. So from a future perspective and from a systemic perspective. And by having different phases. So we had one huge phases at the very beginning in which we basically practiced interviews. So we interviewed a lot of people, and then we had a phase in which we validated the results that we elaborated through time from the first interview. So we had table discussions and also a workshop with practitioners and academics, so a mix of both, to understand how the synergies between these three, let's say. And also to give you a little bit of breakdown, this is the people, I mean, this is the geographic that we try to instill a little bit. Still, I mean, our research is quite small, so we interviewed the people that we felt were more connected to us, but yeah, there's still a lot of work to do in that sense. So I'm going to be moving towards the results in a certain sense, and I like to start with, I mean, it's not an assumption, but it's something that we were told since we started doing group design, that sometimes you have the power to change things. No? I mean, people might disagree or agree with it. I think that if we start framing it from a perspective of actually how much we are responsible for the things that we create, or impactful for the things we create, things start to be really, really different. So we start seeing how sometimes we simplify things when the word of complexity outside is quite, I mean, difficult to comprehend, and how sometimes we really create stories that are linear, but our impact, and also as my speaker before me were saying, the impact and the services that we create have a huge ripple effect on the systems around us, and some services may even outlive us, so they have a different temporality from us. So I'd say that to synthesize a little bit, we try to connect this sort of scenario with principles or design logics, let's say. And what we came up with is the need, and we saw the necessity for designers, those designers that we investigated, to let go of linearity. So understanding processes are sort of set in stone with a predefined steps, and also opening more towards what emergence is. So understanding how a series of experiments can create new insights and then can shape the process in that sense towards new things and uncertain things that we've never seen before. Letting go of solutionism, so approaching a systemic challenge with the solutionist mindset is per se wrong. So understanding how we can really work in an experimental way to poking system and see how they react, and then respond to that accordingly. Letting go of reductionism. So reductionism of kind of working in a sort of silos and fragmenting huge problems and trying to solve the small issues to create a bigger effect. So in that sense, letting go of this might require to engage with complexity as a whole, but also letting go of short-termism. So a lot of time, and a quote that we had from our interviews is that we as designers, we like very much to stay at the beginning of processes. So we like to do research, we like to do these kind of things. But let's say that sometimes these kind of processes need to be thought in a sort of future perspective. So what are the things that we're doing have a legacy? What are the longer term impacts that what we do have for both systems and on temporalities? So in that sense, these can be the way that we are framing it in this research is both design direction, but it also challenges in themselves. We know that there's business constraints, there's so many constraints out there within the system that prevent us from doing that. So what we did was also trying to experiment a little bit and see what those designers that we interviewed did within their work. And let's say that if I were to say the main highlight that we had was trying to cultivate an appreciation from the entanglements of systems. And what does that mean? That means creating spaces in which ambiguity is fostered, in which uncertainty is seen not necessarily as a threat to live out, but to use it as a generative element within the design system. And that translates, this cultivating of entanglements, translating to reconnecting with the words at multiple scales, both from an emotional perspective, but also from a very, very physical perspective. So connecting with the relationship that are made within the system from actors, from designers, from stakeholders. And another skill that we might foster is to be able to facilitate spaces in which we can dream about radically different futures. And that's something that is quite hard, but whenever we design workshops, whenever we design places in which imagination can be radical, let's try to build that. So trying to kind of detach our imagination from the constraints of reality. And in that sense, also fostering experimental places in which we can try to open the design field towards uncertainty and towards complexity as well. So I wanted to, maybe close up with a reminder again. We really saw that, and also from today, we see that the service design is evolving. And it's evolving, becoming very complex, becoming very, but also very humane. So seeing design as a lens, systemic and future-oriented, can really help to see both the past and the future, but also how these elements of past and future are embedded in all plurality that we made of. So the different way we can be past and present and future, but also the way in which other stakeholders out there perceive the past, the present, and the future. Talking about nature, talking about infrastructures, but also talking about the data. They embed in themselves ideas of the past, the present, and the future. So I will be finishing by saying that, again, I'm presenting the research. Behind me, there's a huge team of people that work with me. So I wanted to tell their names. That's Beatrice Villari, Zijun Lin, Manuela Celli, Victoria Rodriguez, Daniela San Giorgi, Mana Pula. And also shout out to BSSD since we're doing that. They're celebrating 20 years. So they told me that.
So thanks, Riccardo. Thanks to all of our 4 speakers. I'm going to take over screen sharing from Berlin again. So we're going to break for questions. Could we request everybody to scan the QR code and type in your question? Please mention the name of the speaker if you want to dedicate it to somebody specifically. And then I will check and pick up 1 question per speaker that will be answered tonight, both for Berlin and Milan. Okay, we see some questions coming in on the screen. I like this question. Is anyone not from PSSD? How many folks in Berlin are not from PSSD? A lot. So we have the non-PSSD community as well. I'm just waiting for everybody to put in their questions. And I will already start with one, which is for Andrés. So Andrés, if you could come to the stage. Can you give us some tips to influence managers in companies?
Okay. We were talking about resilience. I mean that. I think one of the things that you need to learn is you need to wait for the right moment to arrive. I mean, maybe you need to arrive to tell something, ask for something. They are gonna answer no in that moment, but you're gonna start, like plant a seed. So it's gonna start to grow, and grow. So maybe 6 months, after 6 months, you come again to maybe the same people, maybe other people with, actually maybe the same thing, but from another perspective. And in that way, you start also to position an idea. If I can share with you, when I just arrived with, to the company that I work right now, I have this idea of, okay, yeah, let's to map the things out. Let's to use this new tool. It's incredible. Yes, we are going to change. Okay, nope. I was not in the position to do it. I was new. I didn't knew how the organization works. I didn't knew people to talk, so I was really frustrated because nothing happened. Now, as I haven't achieved it yet, but right now I'm seeing that we are more ready to do it. Now I'm more ready because I also have like kind of a political, how can I say, like
Reach.
yes, but it's like I know some people and that people know me. So I kind of start to say, look, I'm not the new one here. No, okay, that I have worked with you in this, and this. So my work. Now let's talk about something new. So I don't know, maybe it can help. It is not easy and it is not fast at all. That's what I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrés. The next question, I'm going to select the speaker because I think they mentioned it actually in their presentation, which is, when do you think a company does not need service design? And Nitya mentioned, right? You should know also when you don't need to do service design. So Nitya,
I'm telling her that I don't know the answer to But yeah, I think I don't know the answer, but I also think a service designer can actually, if you remember the matrix of value versus where you are in an organization, and even if it's education or impact, something like that, which I didn't mention. I think any kind of organization that has a product or that has touch points that are being used by people can definitely do with a service designer. So I can't think of an idea, scenario where it's not.
We all need jobs. Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes. We need service designers everywhere.
Yes.
Thank you, Nitya.
Thank you.
The next question is, and this, again, there's no speaker mentioned, but I think I would pick Angela for the next one, which is, do you think service design is being diluted or overshadowed under the broader umbrella of product design? Because when you come from a startup world, how do you sell? What is service design? What is product design? What do you design?
I think this is a really hard question, actually. And I mean, I thought for a long time also how I wanted to like brand myself and where I wanted to focus. And service design is kind of my truest fit, I would say, in terms of my passions and also my skills and research and so on. And I kind of chose not to brand myself that way because it's a very like niche group of people who really understand it. And I personally chose that I didn't want to fight that fight for my career. So I don't think it's becoming diluted. I actually think that the discipline is growing and getting stronger. I mean, we can see how many people are here, and I think there's also some great conferences, and there's more and more like university programs around service design. So I would actually say that it's not getting diluted. I think it's actually growing, and people are starting to better understand the delineation between service design, product design, and so on. But it's a little bit complicated, and I think each of us, as you can see, have kind of mixed backgrounds and mixed experiences. Many of us do, even those of us who really studied service design. So I think I maybe leave that answer up to each of you in your own hearts, where you want to like identify. But yeah, I don't know if it's like getting diluted. I probably wouldn't use those words.
Thank you. Just for fun, I'm gonna add this question for answering. Well, it's not showing up on the screen for now, but yes. Does somebody from Milan wants to answer this question? Miguel wants to ask, what is PSSD? Can somebody from Milan please answer this question?
Riccardo.
Riccardo.
Yes, I can do that. I mean, PSSD stands for Product Service System Design. And it's a master from Politecnico di Milano that involves, the design of products in the first year, systems, services and system. And let's say, it's a master that quite in a good way helps you to move from the tangibility of products towards the design of huge systems in which a lot of actors interact.
Wow.
Thanks, Riccardo. And while you're there, the actual question for you.
You can add also that is one of the first master in Europe and in the whole world that developed a study in service design.
Someone did his research.
You have a PhD in that.
Apparently, it's the first masters in the world. That's what we just heard. But over to Riccardo. In your research, have you met anyone who's already practicing the design approach you were talking about?
Yes, I kind of forgot to tell, but we also studied and clustered case studies in our research. So yes, we've been looking at projects that not necessarily design services, but use service design attitudes within these two perspectives to contribute to wider transition. So they're both moving from a more policy level, but also very, very tangible, working on the relational perspective of service design. So yes, more info if you follow UnSee. Our research, we have all there in our website.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Those were all the questions we can take today, given the time that we have. But just wanted to mention and call on stage also Florian. So the tool that you guys just used is the tool that he built, Meerkat, that you used for the Q&A. So it's a super user-friendly. You could see that I was just, picking up the answers and they were coming on the screen and everything. And here we have Florian to explain a little bit more about this.
The startup from Berlin.
Yeah, sorry for the Flemish plug at the end. So my name is Florian. For a living, I actually build mobile games with cryptography. But sometimes in my free time, I also build other stuff, like, for example, this Q&A tool. And I just wanted to show it to you today and Also, if you're curious a little bit to learn about how we used this last year with for conferences, 800 talks and 12,000 people, come talk to me. We're also looking for people that would like to contribute to open source from a visual side or also from a UX perspective. You can see there's a lot of things that can get better here. But yeah, I appreciate also any type of feedback you guys had today, or if anything didn't work out, please come and talk to me. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So, I mean, this is, we wanted to also this is actually the perfect segue into how, the community can step up, take the stage if they want to speak, bring their products if they want to try out, get user feedback, or, if you are building something cool, why not, right? Like you can use this as the platform. I guess I'm speaking for both Berlin and Milan here. And also, if there's anybody in the room who's hiring, I mean, I know a lot of people are probably looking for jobs because that's the market, unfortunately, but is somebody hiring? We have someone in Berlin. Over to you. What are you hiring for?
An experienced strategist who can do service design and design thinking and everything else that we talked about today. So
And Jakala, Hamburg.
yeah,
And where do we find the job posting on your website? LinkedIn. So for job seekers, if you want to move to Hamburg from Milan, this might be your opportunity. This might be your chance.
sure.
Anyone from Milan that's hiring?
Are you hiring? No, that's not. No, we all moved to Hamburg, I think.
We have another one in Berlin. Guys, the market is picking up.
It's not for service design, it's for product design.
Can you come here so they can hear?
So it's not for service design, it's for product design. It's at Zalando and it's the content solution team. So content solution is where we shoot the item. So it's a lovely place for anyone who is interested into fashion, into know how the process of production happens. And we are hiring for that. So you can check for the job opening.
Yeah. So Zalando is hiring if you want to move to Berlin, guys. Why not?
You will run the German class, I think. In the next semester.
Perfect. Then I think that was all from both SDDs, more or less. The last thing we want to say from SDD Berlin today is that our next event is going to be at ThoughtWorks in like 2 weeks. And it's our yearly collaboration with UX Camp. We do it every year, this collaboration. And if you've never been to this, I think it's a very cool event because UX Camp Europe, which happens in Berlin, is such a nice, warming community. So if you've never attended UX Camp, please do that. If you don't have time for that, attend SDD, so where you can meet both communities. So this is happening in about 2 weeks.
And it's our third year. We partner with UX Day in Faenza, which is, wow, not in Milano. And we have a discount you can find in our social media and Slack. So if you are planning to go there, see you there. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I guess we're going to mute Berlin.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Ciao. Ciao.